Hey y'all, welcome back to Convos with Bree. I'm Bree, BREE, and today is day 42 of the Visibility Challenge. And today is day 3 of reading my book, Young Writer's Day, Fragile Minds and the Adults That Mold Them. I had just finished up talking about what had happened between my teacher and another one of the students, and I'm just going to pick right up from where we left off. We had a substitute teacher. We had her before, and she was a fine substitute for study hall or a class where you had to pop a movie in and sit back. She was more like a babysitter, last call if nobody else was available, which was fine. Normally, we looked forward to a movie day, but today we did not want to watch a movie. We were so excited. We wanted to talk about who was coming in to see our books, what we wrote about, what it looked like, what color of paper we used, and what image we chose for our cover. You know, the important things. She was not interested in letting us talk about our books that morning. I know because I was the one that asked. She told us to be quiet and watch the movie, or we would have to stay in at recess. We all groaned and sat back. By the time recess rolled around, we were crazy balls of energy. We were bursting at the seams to get up, run around, and talk about our exciting afternoon. Nobody was lining up quietly. Nobody was standing in a straight line. We were jumping around. Everyone's chatter was getting louder and louder. And suddenly, she started tearing up. I felt the room shift, and I immediately wanted to help her. I felt bad that nobody was listening, so I made a joke, like I always did. And I said, I thought you were a teacher. You gotta scare these kids into line. Big smile on my face, laughing, very non-threatening, trying to show her, I am just joking with everything I have. I wanted to make her laugh instead of cry. There were even arm motions. Then I yelled to the class, hey, show her some respect. Get in line so we can get out of here. Everyone listened because, honestly, everyone always listened. My voice is loud. It carries. It always worked. It was how I was helpful in every class. I'd make it funny. Everyone would laugh, and then they would listen. And I would say, all right, here's what we need to do, and we'd all do it. Teachers loved it. They would even tell me how much easier I made things when I did that, even thanked me. I thought I would make her whole day. But then she started bawling. I was shocked. She left the room and we just stood there, looking around at each other, not sure what to do. A few seconds went by and everyone started talking again. I looked at them and quietly but sharply said, guys, just shh. This was serious. I felt it. I was nervous. The ants were back under my skin. I noticed part of the skin on my wrist was turning red. The burning started to build, and then it started to itch like crazy. I just want to pause this really quick because I'm about to dive into something wild, and my wrist is literally turning red and burning right now. Oof. Even all these years later, still healing some things. All right, let's resume. The next moment was terrible. The next moment of my life took away so much of who I was for so long. This one moment changed everything. Our substitute did not come back. I felt it shift before she even walked in the door. There she was, the I put my hands on children teacher, her. She stormed into the room and yelled at everyone to shut up and get in line. I knew. I knew she was there for me. I knew I wasn't going out to recess. My entire body felt weighted. My chest sank. But I didn't feel scared. I felt a weird rush of surrender wash over me. It felt like I knew that what was about to happen already happened. No matter what I did in this moment, I knew she would steal part of me from me. My body didn't feel good. I felt like I had the flu. My skin hurt. My bones ached. I felt an overwhelming rush of sadness. I didn't even do anything wrong. She told everyone to go outside and get to recess. I put my head down and jumped in with a few kids. I tried to blend in and walk past her. She grabbed onto my upper arm so hard and pulled me out into the hallway. She never let go of my arm. My friends looked at me and I nodded that it was okay. I was okay. Just go. I didn't want this coming back on them. I didn't want it to be worse for them. It was my turn. I just had to take it. And I knew there was nowhere for them to hide. We were in the hallway. They had to go. There was nothing else to do. I should have started screaming in the hallway. I should have thrown my body around if she tried to shut me up. I should have done anything. But I didn't. I couldn't. I was frozen. It already happened. I knew it. This had to happen. What I didn't realize was that while this was always going to happen, I did not have to handle it like I did. But I didn't know that then. Hindsight and all that. Let's also recognize that I was a kid in a small town. I didn't exactly have the tools yet to develop. Let me reread this line. I didn't exactly have the tools developed yet to deal with this kind of trauma. I took a big breath in and out. I watched the kids laughing, joking in line. I kept breathing in and out, watching them walk away until the last shoe stepped onto the outside pavement and the door slowly closed behind them. Nobody was in the hallway. I could feel that nobody was coming. It was the perfect storm, and whatever was going to happen was going to happen. She whipped my body around so that I was facing towards her and shoved me hard back into the wall. I wish I could say that I was shocked, but I knew it was coming. I had seen her do this so many times before to other kids. It was the first time, though, that an adult had ever physically put their hands on me. The wrist grab, as messed up as it was, this felt different. I knew that was wrong, but I also knew that it was something that could happen in the heat of the moment. I knew that. But this was straight up wrong. I couldn't even defend myself. I was just a kid. I sucked in some air and thought, hey, I've always loved a good David versus Goliath story. Maybe this was mine. My brother hit me a lot when we were kids. He was the one person in my life who ever put hands on me, and he had effectively done it enough that I actually felt a little encouraged in this moment. Like, hey, I have experience here. I know what to do. I know what makes him more mad and what makes him cool off faster. I can get through this, okay? Keep breathing. Just think of your brother. It's not a teacher, it's your brother. I made the mistake of regaining my composure, standing up straight instead of staying on the wall that she had shoved me into. I had gotten a little bit of pep in my step when I thought of her as my brother because he would hit me and leave. He didn't stay and pound on me. So when she pushed me, I thought maybe that was it. And I stood up so she could yell at me for whatever it was she was there to yell at me for. And maybe still have a chance to get some recess. I could get through this. I didn't even know why she was mad at me. I helped everyone get lined up. I had no idea why the substitute was crying or why she even went to get her. She took me standing back up as me trying to show her that I was challenging her, showing her that I wasn't scared instead of ready to listen. She shoved me hard back into the wall, and then she pinned me to the wall by putting her hands on each side of my head. She moved in closer to me. She bent both arms in at the elbows so she could be right in my face, leaving me feeling suffocated with no room to move or breathe. That feeling of someone bigger and older than you boxing you in, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. She told me that I was a little bitch and that I would get what was coming to me. She couldn't believe that I thought that I could shoot my fucking mouth off to teachers, and it was time that I learned my lesson. I was too stupid to understand anything, but she was going to make sure that I learned to keep my mouth shut. Adults had never sworn at me or talked to me like this. Adults had never gotten into my personal space like this. Nobody had ever made me feel this kind of gross all the way through. I tried to close my eyes, but she slapped my cheek just hard enough to sting, just a little bit, just threatening enough to show me that she was in control. She told me to look at her while she was talking. I wasn't expecting that at all, and it scared me into a whole different world. So I did. I looked right at her, but I didn't see her. It was the first time in my life that I can remember disassociating and having an out-of-body experience. I didn't know what I was doing then, but when I described it later, I found out what it was. I can't remember what else she said. I just let her whisper every awful thing that she had to say about me and kept breathing. In and out. In and out. That was what my body did. Her words faded out. I couldn't hear. I wasn't afraid anymore. In fact, I wasn't anything. I couldn't feel anything. I was so relaxed. It almost felt like I was floating in water. For a few seconds, my ears were in the water, muffling all the sounds. I couldn't even feel anything on my body. I slipped out so quietly that I didn't even realize any of this until I wasn't there anymore. I wasn't in the water. I wasn't floating in the air. I was watching my body. I was watching her. I couldn't look away. I couldn't think about what I was seeing. I watched. I floated, feeling nothing at all. I took in her body language, the way she would only move her hands off the wall to put them really close to my face like she was going to hit me. I looked so little, breathing in, breathing out, eyes staring at her with nothing behind them, just trying to get through this. Then it all hit me. I realized I was watching me, and I felt confused. I started feeling tingly. Then I was overwhelmed with sadness. Everything was different now. This wasn't right. This wasn't normal. This should never happen. And all of a sudden, I felt sick. And then it felt like I was being shot into space. The next thing I knew, I was back in my body, and she was still going. She had her fist clenched and was shaking it next to my face. I was going to throw up. I dipped underneath her arms and I ran. I ran into the bathroom and I threw up. Then I threw up again. I sat there, breathing hard, listening to see if she had followed me in. She didn't. I guess when she heard me throw up, she called it a win and went back to her day. I slowly pushed myself up off the ground. I was shaking. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. I stood there, just breathing until I felt strong enough to move. I walked down to the nurse's office and asked her to call my mom to come get me. I told her I threw up. I needed to go home. That was it. I didn't say a word about what had just happened in the hallway. I was a frequent flyer to the nurse's office, but I never went home. I loved school even more than I loved ice packs and Band-Aids. It was my favorite place to be, and I never wanted to miss a second of it. If anything, I wanted to stay late. My mom had me get on the phone because this wasn't normal, and it was Young Writers' Day. I told her I didn't feel good and that I was sick, and I swear to you, she probably doesn't even remember, but that day she knew I was off. She asked me again if anything else was happening, and I said no. I'm just sick and need to go home. I asked her to please come get me. I was already sad enough. I didn't need to talk about it, which at the time was the truth. I had buried it away, just like I did with my brother when he was really mean to me. I stepped it down and I moved on. It was over. It happened. I had to just keep moving. This wasn't the last time I'd see her, and that made me want to be sick permanently. My mom picked me up and I slept the rest of the day and night. I missed Young Writers' Day. I didn't share my story. I threw it in the trash. After that, I was different. I didn't love school anymore, and it didn't get better. I spent the next few months pretending nothing had ever happened when I saw her. I was quiet. I participated when she asked us to. Instead of getting a book from the reading corner, I started drawing and writing stories instead. I would keep my paper until she told us to finish up. I wasn't making that mistake again. Finally, I made it. The year was over. I was so happy to be leaving 4th grade behind. I might still see her, but I never had to deal with her for class anymore. I could avoid her. I could breathe again. Or so I thought. We always had a few choices for who we could get as our teachers for the next year. Usually, all of them were nice. It didn't really matter who you got. It was more about if your friends were with you. 4th, 5th, and 6th grade were different. Those years, you knew. Some kids were having a good year, while the other kids would be absolutely miserable. Those years, you hoped and prayed that you and your friends got the nice teachers. But after 4th grade, I was determined to make the best of it, no matter who I got. I was certain that it wouldn't matter. I would work hard, I would participate, I would study, I would be fine. Then I learned why nobody wanted this particular teacher for math in 5th grade. It wasn't because she didn't know what she was doing. She was the worst teacher because if she didn't like you, or if you didn't pick up what she was putting down immediately, that was it. She wasn't going to teach you. Of course, this is who I was going to spend my 5th grade math life with. The worst possible teacher for me to have. Looking back, I shouldn't have been surprised. Hindsight and all that, right? I walked up the first day of class ready to impress. She was standing outside her door along with the 6th grade math teacher, who was also known for being a teacher that you did not want to get. But like I said, I was determined to make it a great year. I thought to myself, hey, this actually works in my favor. I could win them both over on the very first day. Then I wouldn't have to be worried about 6th grade either. I was confident, I was bubbly, I was energized, I was ready. I walked up to them and warmly said hello, using their names and nodding to them accordingly. I introduced myself and said exactly how excited I was for this year. I couldn't wait to see what was in store for us. Turning towards the sixth grade teacher, I said, "And hopefully I have you next year." They looked at each other and then back to me, never smiling. My new fifth grade teacher spoke first. All she said was, "We've heard about you." The sixth grade teacher followed up in a disgusted tone. "I'd rethink your wishes about next year." She told my fifth grade teacher, "Good luck," nodding back at me, and walked away, heading back to her class. My chest sank. I was so sad. I felt like I couldn't win. I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't even do anything wrong. This was the worst year yet. Things that I didn't even know were an issue at the time were starting to show up in a lot of big ways. I had hit my head over the summer, and at the time, I hadn't linked these two things together. All I knew was that school was a lot harder this year. I couldn't connect this new math in my brain. I needed help, and I was determined to get it. I was not going to fall behind. I was never afraid to ask questions until fifth grade math. She had just finished up a lesson on the board and told us to use the rest of our class time to work on our assignment from our book. I wasn't understanding any of it. I was completely lost. I was so happy that she gave us class time to work on it. I walked up to her desk and asked if she could give me another example. She pointed to what she had put on the board. I told her that I didn't understand the lesson and asked if she could please explain it to me another way. She took an irritated sigh and said, "You should give up now." "Give up what?" I replied. "Math. You aren't getting it now, and you never will. Take your seat. The example is on the board." That was it. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to cry. I had never felt so defeated. I honestly didn't know until that moment that a teacher could even tell you no when it came to asking for help. I thought that they had to help you if you asked. It was their job to teach it to you in a million different ways until one of them stuck. It never even occurred to me that a teacher wouldn't want to teach. That was how my entire year went. Me asking questions because I didn't understand, and her telling me that I was stupid, that she couldn't teach me, that I was on my own. Quit math, quit trying. I gave up on myself right then and there. I quit. I found out that ants under my skin were not ants. I had developed hives and they were out of control. I'd get them all over my body. My entire body would swell and burn and itch like crazy. Everyone started making jokes about how I always had hickeys on my neck, and I hated that. I hated that all my friends were starting to date each other. I hated that everyone was growing up. I just wanted to roller skate without telling me that so-and-so wanted to make out with me in the game room. I wanted adults to be nice. I just wanted to be a kid. I wanted to go back to life before all of this. So far, all I knew was that growing up sucked. My math teacher developed a habit of only calling on me if I didn't know the answer. If I raised my hand, she would not call on me. I genuinely tried to answer when I knew the answer. I thought that if I could get a few right, she would back off, but that wasn't the case. When she could see me struggling, she would always call on me. You could hear it in her tone. You could see it on her face. The room would change. The other kids knew it too. They could feel it or had experienced it firsthand. She would call on me. I would get it wrong, and she would tell the entire class not to be stupid like me. I was breaking down. I was shutting myself away. My body was screaming at me that we were not okay, but I didn't know what to do. I wasn't the only kid experiencing this. We all understood. We were all in this together. The fact that none of us had been able to make it stop, that sealed it in for me that we didn't have any power. We just had to get through it. Surely one of us would have gotten someone involved if we thought that it would make these teachers help us, right? Every time I saw her in the halls, every time I knew she was going to switch to class participation, I felt like I was going to puke. I was sweating. I couldn't stop breaking out in hives. I was a ball of anxiety, but I didn't know that. I had no idea how to voice it. I thought it was just normal, part of growing up. The doctors checked me out and said that I was fine. Allergies, take Benadryl, you'll be good to go. Benadryl made me fall asleep. I fell asleep through entire classes. Who even cared anymore? One day I walked into math with a spearmint cough drop in my mouth. I was under the weather. I was always under the weather. I rolled around with cough drops in my bag all the time. My throat was constantly bothering me. It was hard to swallow sometimes, but the doctor checked me out. Everything was fine. I popped in a cough drop because I'd be damned if I was going to start coughing in her class and draw attention to myself. I drew attention to myself anyway. She thought it was gum, and she lost her marbles. She started yelling at me in front of the entire class about how disrespectful I was. Who did I think I was chewing gum in her class? She said that everything she had ever heard about me was true. Nobody should ever want to be like me. I was stupid, and she didn't even know how I was allowed to be in her class. I would be nothing. When she was done, she told me to get up and go spit out my gum. I just put it between my teeth and showed her that it wasn't gum. I popped it back into my mouth and said, "It's a cough drop." I felt so cool. I had her. Who was stupid now? She paused. Our eyes were locked. I smiled. I had her. And then she smirked, and I knew whatever was coming wasn't good. "You are so smart. What is the solution to the problem on the board?" Of course. She knew I didn't know. She wouldn't teach it to me. She laughed. The class awkwardly looked around at each other, not really knowing what to do. I felt like I was dead inside. I didn't care about anything anymore. I was depressed. There was nothing good here. I spent a lot of time in my favorite teacher's room whenever I could. She would let me hang out in her room during free time to work on homework, work on my stories, or if I wanted to come in and read, I could. I always felt welcome there. She let me help before and after school if I was early or staying late. Her room was a safe space. I didn't tell her much at first. Most of the time, she would be grading papers while I was doing my thing. Sometimes I would share my stories with her and we'd talk about them, but for the most part, it was just about feeling safe. But that's the thing about safe spaces. They are only safe with nobody else really in them. We were in class working through a lesson. My favorite teacher had us each read a portion out loud. I hated when we read out loud. For someone who loves to talk, write, read, that's probably surprising, but I hated it. It felt like enormous amounts of pressure. I didn't want to mess up any words. She called on my cousin, and I instantly felt for him. As much as I hated it, he had a stutter. He really hated it. He made it through his part, and I was really proud of him. We finished up and lined up for recess. While we were in line, one of the boys in my class decided that it would be hilarious to start making fun of my cousin by imitating his stutter and then exaggerating it. That made my blood boil. These kids were nice kids before. Why were they all getting meaner by the minute? I locked eyes with him and told him to stop. Now. He started laughing, stuttering harder and saying, what are you, are you gonna, before he could even finish his sentence, my hands were moving. I shoved him into the coat rack. He stood back up and started laughing. He turned to my cousin and said, "Oh, I didn't realize you can't talk and you need a girl to fight your battles." My fists were balled up. They moved so fast I couldn't even think. I punched him square in the face. His hands went up immediately. He was bleeding. Everyone got quiet. Our teacher walked back in the room and saw what was happening. She ran over and quickly checked him out, realizing that he was okay but needed to get cleaned up. She sent him down to the nurse. My teacher, my favorite teacher, told me that I was in trouble and that I had to stay inside. I was so sad. There goes my safe space. But then I remembered what a jerk that kid was. I puffed my chest out. I would regret nothing. The minute they left, my teacher looked at me and she said, "What the heck? This isn't you. Tell me what happened." I fell apart. What hadn't happened? Everyone sucked. Everyone was mean. I was not meant for this world. I just wanted it to be nice. I just wanted to learn. My brain didn't feel like it was working right. My body constantly felt like it was working against me. I was behind. I was never going to be able to catch back up. People were making me mean. And now my safe space was ruined because some stupid kid thought that making another kid feel like complete trash about something that already made him struggle and feel different was a cool thing to do. And the rest of the class felt like backing up that asshole was the right thing to do. And now I was in trouble. I had no regrets about punching that guy. I kind of felt like punching all of them. Let's see how funny things are then. Assholes. I hated people. Why were they so mean? I didn't want to do this anymore. Everything was so complicated. I was so tired. The harder life got, the smaller I felt. Tears were streaming down my cheeks. In a rush, I let it all out. I caught my favorite teacher off guard that day. She let me cry until I couldn't anymore. I wept that day. When I finally calmed down, she handled what happened first. She told me that if I kept reacting with my fists, I was going to end up in a lot of trouble and that life wasn't for me. She wasn't even mad at me for what I did. In fact, she was more disappointed that it had happened at all. She also told me that there were people in every profession that shouldn't be there. But that shouldn't cancel out all the good ones, though. She made me realize that focusing on the bad guys, that's how they win. I wasn't going to let them have power over me anymore. I could get through this. I could win. I'd focus on the good, get through the bad. When I started coming into her room from now on, we were working. She was helping me with math as much as she possibly could. Even though I was still too far behind and I wasn't really making enough of the information stick in my brain to succeed, I took in just enough to pass. They couldn't fail you in elementary, so I moved right along. 6th grade came and went, and it was the same thing, but not quite as bad. What changed? I started turning my sadness into humor. I started looking for the good. They can't break me if I can make it funny. And listen, I was funny. And when I was focusing on the good things, I could make anything funny. Nobody told me what to do. And I didn't get in trouble because I didn't ever cross the line. When I got close, I just made them laugh. And it worked. The kids didn't think about how stupid I was or my hives when they thought of me anymore. They thought about how funny I was. I also found it made me more likable. So when teachers said mean things to me or about me, the kids didn't laugh anymore. They were on my side. They liked me and I made them laugh. Why would anyone be mean to me? This is also the time that I really started to lean into my love of the breeze in, breeze out lifestyle. I like to come into the room, make people laugh, and then leave. Mostly because I worked pretty damn hard to be funny and athletic so that people saw those things about me. If I stayed too long, one of two things happened. One, I disappointed them, or two, they disappointed me. I would disappoint them by not being everything that they wanted or thought I was. They would disappoint me because I was disappointed in the world. They were mean, mean to each other, mean to themselves, mean to faces, and even worse behind backs. Their idea of funny was setting up heartbreak. So many times they would get a girl to come over and make them think that they wanted to hang out. They would start talking and say that someone liked them and asked what they thought. They would try to convince them about why they should like that boy back. Once they said, okay, yeah, I guess he's nice. I guess I like him too. They would send her over to say, hey, I like you too. And watch as he said, what? I never said I liked you like that. Then they would laugh at her while her heart broke and make her seem stupid, like she just went over there and did this all on her own, out of the blue. These were kids that had been wonderful before, people that I thought were amazing, fantastic people, and now this is what they were choosing to do. What happened to them? Everyone sucked. Life was full of disappointments. It was better to just find a few people you like and breeze in and breeze out. So that's what I did. I started making life fun again. I was playing outside with my friends a lot. During the day, we'd play capture the flag, kickball, football, anything. And at night, we played my favorite game, jailbreak. If you don't know what that is, it's basically an amplified mashup of tag and hide and go seek. I got better at softball and was practicing and playing any chance that I got. We'd shoot hoops in my driveway, meet up at the park, ride our bikes around town. Anything that felt good, I was in. I laughed a lot. I didn't feel so sad anymore. I had control of my class now. My sixth grade teacher was the weakest link of all three. The minute I realized I could make jokes every time that she called on me, the game changed. The whole class would start getting rowdy. I was a bad influence. She stopped giving me power in the only way that she could. She couldn't call on me anymore. I could breathe. I could relax. I was still going into my favorite teacher's room and working on math, doing everything that I could to try to make it stick with my free time. The only way that I was even going to skate by was by working on it as often as possible. I did all the practice work I could get my hands on. It was working. I was making enough stick to confidently get by. And that felt good. If you have ever earned an incredibly hard-earned C, then you know how good that feels. The pressure lifts. You are average instead of behind. You can breathe a little easier. Life was looking up. It would all be okay. I had taken my power back from the mean teachers. The good guys always win. Until they don't. That one got me a little bit, y'all. That one got me a little bit. I'm so grateful for my favorite teacher. I literally don't know what would have become of me if she had not helped me change my perspective that day and if she did not give me a safe space. I owe her a lot. And that is why when I tell you that one person can make the biggest difference, It's because I know that for a fact. I know that small things can change somebody's life. And the way that we treat each other has more of an impact than any of us actually realize. I'm going to leave it at that today. We'll pick right up where we left off tomorrow. I appreciate you all so much. And thank you for listening and for being here.